Hey guys, before the video begins, I want to give you some background on it. This was sent to me from a subscriber. He was browsing on the deep web and came across a forum that had this AMA posted in it. He didn't have time to read the entire post at the time, so he copied and pasted it into a Word file. After reading it, he decided to send it to me. He tried finding the original post again to include the pictures, but was unable to. From how he described them, I wouldn't have been able to show them anyway without basically blurring everything out. He also searched the surface web to see if anyone had reposted the thread anywhere there, but again he had no luck. But I am sure you can come up with an idea of what the pictures were like. Also, I am not including questions that weren't answered, or other banter from people that aren't the original poster. 99% of it is not at all entertaining and would take away from the quality of this video. Also, on an unrelated note, if any of you play Uncharted 4 online, send me your user tag so we can play together, or add me at SirSpooksALot 04, all lowercase, and I'll probably put it in the description. Also, I will be giving a gift card away when I hit 10,000 subscribers as a little gift, and I'll set that up how I choose. It's not any certain type of gift card. I'm just going to pick a monetary amount, and the winner can choose what kind of gift card they want. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the story. I am a successful serial killer. Ask me anything. Okay guys, so for obvious reasons, I couldn't post this on Reddit or something. I believe this site is the next best option. Aside from posting here, I am taking further actions to protect my identity. Just to start off, I am posting several images that are proof. You guys can go ahead and reverse search them, you won't come up with anything. These are a few of my trophies, and I've never shown them off before, to anyone. They're also not geotagged. I assure you, I know what I'm doing. As far as how many people I've killed, I'm just going to say it's up into double digits. I'm not getting any more specific than that. Any questions that could identify me or my location will go unanswered. Aside from that, ask me anything. How did you turn into a serial killer? What made you decide to do this? Well, I don't know. To be honest, I never got to a point in my life where I just decided I was going to start killing. I can say one thing for sure. Ever since I can remember, I always had this hole in me, this part that felt empty. I tried filling this void in all sorts of ways. I would date girls or sleep with them. I tried drinking. I tried using a variety of drugs. I tried various hobbies. None of it worked. At the end of the day, I would still feel this void. So one night, I found out that this girl I was very close to did something really wrong to me. I won't go into any specific details, but I snapped. I'm not a very angry person, and I usually don't have a bad temper, but that night I did. I ended up taking her life. I didn't plan on doing this to her, but in the heat of the moment, it just kind of happened. Afterwards, there were two things going on with the situation. First and foremost, I had to cover up what happened and make sure I wasn't going to be in trouble. But also, I got a high from what I had done. A better high than I've ever felt from anything else in my entire life. I felt a sense of happiness and contentment that I didn't know was possible. That void inside of me was gone. And this feeling lasted for what I consider to be a significant amount of time. But after that significant amount of time had passed, the void was there again. So I went back to living my life, but that feeling really was weighing on me. I was relieved that I never got into any trouble over my first kill, and afterwards never considered the idea that I would kill again. I really didn't even totally associate that good feeling with the murder at this point. But it was something that I always thought about. There was definitely some type of drive in me that made me wish I could go back to that night and do it again. I ended up getting into a bar fight on purpose. I thought that fighting someone might give me a similar feeling to what I felt that night. Honestly, it is such a difficult thing to explain, and I don't even know for sure what was going on in my head. So I apologize if I'm giving an explanation that seems erratic or difficult to follow. But long story short, I ended up in a situation where I had motive and opportunity to kill again. And I took advantage of that opportunity. After that second kill, I knew for sure that the high it gives is what was missing in my life. As good as I felt, it also worried me a lot. Being in a situation where murdering people is the only thing that makes you feel like your life is worth living is a pretty shitty place to be. But yeah, that's it. Trial and error is what made me find out what my calling is. Okay, so if you are a successful serial killer and have gotten away with everything, why the fuck are you even taking risk by posting this online? That's a good, fair question. There are a couple reasons I decided to do this. For one, I thought it would be interesting to allow regular people to get some insight on what my life is like. TV and movies always talk about how they catch serial killers. Aside from the media talking about the Zodiac killer, they rarely mention how many of these serial killers they don't catch. It's probably possible that certain murders are never linked together, and they often don't even recognize that they have a serial killer on their hands. Regardless, this post gives you guys a chance to look into a different side of things, one that the media doesn't tend to show. Also, to be honest with you guys, I wanted to do this for my own pleasure as well. I am not able to talk to anyone about this. I have never been able to share these things with anyone. It probably won't make sense to most of you, but this is something I want to show off. You don't collect trophies just to hide them in the closet, right? But I've always had to hide mine, so being able to show off what I've done and even show a few trophies is something I've wished I could do for a very long time. Do you consider yourself a psychopath? Have you ever sought or received professional help? No, I'm actually not a psychopath. A lot of serial killers are, but I'm not. I can honestly say I've felt guilt and remorse for every individual I've killed. And even knowing that these individuals' family or loved ones are hurting makes me feel bad. And this is actually the reason I have sought out professional help. Obviously, I couldn't go talk to a therapist and tell them I was an active serial killer. Remember when I mentioned that I even tried fighting to calm my urges? That's the story I decided to stick with when it came to therapy. I told my therapist that I would get into fights every so often because I liked how it felt when I was hurting someone. We decided that since I felt bad for the people afterwards, that I was not a sociopath. My therapist eventually decided that I was an addict. My therapist said that addictions come in all shapes and sizes. They told me that in addition to continuing therapy, that I should be working the 12 steps, but just a version that wasn't for alcohol. I really did have a little hope at that point and did want to change my life. I didn't want to keep killing, but needed that empty feeling gone some other way. At first, this all seemed promising. The first step was admitting I had an addiction and that my life was unmanageable. Considering I was a serial killer that felt bad for killing but couldn't stop, I was totally on board with that step. But I then hit an immediate roadblock. Step 2 is, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. So yeah, that was an issue for me. I'm not some devil worshiper or something, but I have an issue with believing in God. The idea of a God, one that lets me do what I do, one that could fix me but doesn't, just doesn't make sense to me. But I am also not able to fully make sense of a world that doesn't have a God. So basically, the idea of God and the idea of no God both don't make total sense to me. I continued therapy anyway, but after so long, found out it was hopeless, and eventually I quit going. Do you have a certain MO when it comes to killing? Like, do you use a knife or a gun? I use whatever doesn't get me caught, which is basically whatever is quietest. I've never used a gun before, due to how much unwanted attention it would draw. Typically, I use a knife, my bare hands, or some other type of handheld item. At gun shows, there are stands that sell all sorts of amazing blades. I even have one that is basically a pair of brass knuckles with a blade sticking out that runs parallel with the knuckles. I've considered using poison, but that wouldn't satisfy my urge. Watching the life leave someone's body is what satisfies the craving. So the knives are the most popular choice, and strangulation comes in second place. I've also used blunt force impact, such as bashing someone on the head with something or physically slamming their head on the floor. But like I said, I like to stick with the classics. At what age did you first kill someone? I was originally hesitant on answering this question, but since it won't reveal my current age, it should be fine. I was 22 years old when I first killed. It was the incident where I discovered she had done something horrible to me, and I just snapped. It was like I had tunnel vision and didn't even have control over myself anymore. What happens if you go a long time without killing anyone? Like, how do you start to feel? That's a good question, and it's one that's difficult for me to describe. I know most of you probably aren't drug addicts, but the closest comparison I've heard of is what it's like for a drug addict to go without using drugs. Obviously, I don't go through some type of physical withdrawal, but the mental part does seem to be the same. It's a compulsion, like an obsession that I'm not able to control. After long enough, it consumes all of my thoughts in every part of my day. If you've watched intervention or documentaries about addiction, it's similar to what those people say about their obsession to use. Even though they know the repercussions could be catastrophic, they can't control the impulse and go use anyway. How do you pick your victims? I have absolutely no agenda when it comes to finding victims. The first two weren't random, but ever since then, the rest have been. Sometimes I'll just come across the right person. I subtly follow them around for a while and study their routines. There's a vetting process, and depending on the situation, I'll either go through with it or not. The only consistent thing I do now is make sure I don't know the individual or have any connection to them. But there's no type of specific people I go after. It's like, when I see them, I just know. Aside from that, I just make sure that once I find the right person, I'm able to successfully get the job done and not get caught. How do you actually get away with this? Well, I can't give away all of my secrets, but like I mentioned before, it's extremely important that I have no relationship with a person, no ties to them, no friends, family members, neighbors, coworkers, nothing. And also previously mentioned, I put the individuals through an extensive vetting process. Without them ever seeing me or knowing me, I learn everything I can about them. Where they live, where they work, who they live with, what their routine is, etc. I'll pick the best location and method depending on the circumstances surrounding the individual. And here's something that's just an example. If I were to stab someone 87 times, the investigators aren't going to think it was a random killing or a burglary gone wrong. They're going to think it was a crime of passion and be looking at the victim's closest associates. Obviously, I take extensive measures in regards to all things forensics. As far as anything related to computers and the internet, I've been obsessed with computers, the internet, coding, hacking, etc. ever since the internet really became a thing. Not only am I more than proficient enough to ensure my anonymity online, these skills can be great tools when it comes to vetting potential targets. How do you hide this from your friends, family, and coworkers? Well, obviously, I'm not going to talk about the members of family I may or may not have, or what type of job I have if I am even employed. But just in general in life, I am always accountable. I am always where I'm supposed to be, when I'm supposed to be there. I don't ever leave people in a position to question where I've been or what I've been doing with my time. Do you think anyone has ever suspected you of this? No, I do not believe so. Are there any types of people you haven't or wouldn't kill? Yes, several types. As stated previously, I would not kill someone who is associated with me in any way, shape, or form. I would never kill a child. I would never kill a police officer or someone in the government or anyone else that has a high-ranking status. Those types of people would have their murders investigated more vigorously than the average person, and obviously that's not good for me. Has anyone ever gotten away from you after you've attempted to kill them? No. This is why I go through such an extensive vetting process for each individual, and why the vetting process itself is so important. Would you say your upbringing or family life as a child had anything to do with you becoming a serial killer? No, not at all. Why are you such a piece of shit? Why don't you just murder yourself? Well, I don't want to die. Like I said before, if there was a way for me to stop killing, I would, but I can't. But I also don't want to die, and I have no clue why I am the way I am. I seem to have been born this way, and there's no other explanation I've ever been able to come up with. Would you consider your sex life to be normal? Well, I definitely wouldn't consider it to be abnormal at all, nor has it ever been at any point. But I guess that's just my opinion. If you weren't full of shit and were actually a serial killer, would you kill me? Oh, it's the guy that called me a sick piece of shit and told me to kill myself. Yeah, you might make the list, although that's not typically how I pick people. Well then, I dare you to kill me. Actually, I double dog dare you. Well, that's not really a question, more of a statement, so I do not know how to answer that. Do you believe in karma? No. If karma were real, I wouldn't be typing this right now. Not only have I never been even so much as a suspect, but I've never been caught or murdered myself. All other areas of my life are filled with great things. If karma existed, none of that would be true. It seems like most serial killers associate murder with sex. Do you ever rape your victims? No. I have never raped anyone or committed any other type of sex crime. Are you currently vetting any potential victim as of now? Yes, actually I am. Within the last few days, I have begun vetting someone. In fact, I may or may not be back on this forum from anywhere from a few days to a few weeks because of this. Do you ever sporadically kill people? No, not really. At least not since the first two. Doing this would put me at much greater risk of getting caught. Plus, I do enjoy the vetting process. Not only is it absolutely crucial for me to complete a full vetting process for my safety, but it's part of filling that void. It gives me a rush and satisfies me, but it is only satisfying while it's still necessary. Once someone is fully vetted, any continual vetting no longer gives me any satisfaction. If it did, I would just vet people for the rest of my life and never kill any of them. Do you ever think you will be caught? No. It could be arrogance, or just that I have trust in my methods, or the fact that I've been so successful for so long, but I honestly believe I will never be caught. The extent of the precautions I take is probably even more than necessary, and I'm always going to keep it that way. For example, I didn't post this on the deep web because of maintaining my anonymity. Yes, Using the deep web gives you an added layer of protection, but it is nowhere near enough. I have many measures in place to make myself literally untraceable. Just using a Tor browser on the deep web is not enough, not even close. The reason this was posted here was mainly because I knew it wouldn't have lasted on the surface web. And yes, it does provide even a teeny bit more protection. Hey guys, I wanted to say that I am sorry that I haven't posted to this thread in a few weeks. Like I said, I was in the beginning of a vetting process. As you can imagine, I am on cloud 9 now, if you know what I mean. I should be content for weeks or months, even sometimes more. This last one was different for me, and quite a bit more satisfying than normal. Now, I actually have a question for all of you. Do you guys remember the individual who went from being an ass to a troll? He asked me why I was a piece of shit, told me I should kill myself, told me I was full of shit, dared me to kill him, and after I began ignoring him, continued posting non-stop, trying to derail this thread. Do you guys remember who I am talking about? Also, another question. Do you remember when I said that just using a Tor browser and being on the deep web didn't provide anywhere near enough anonymity and security? Well, I was being truthful when I said that. And for those of you that remember the troll I am talking about, well, he won't be posting in this thread anymore. In fact, he won't be posting anywhere, ever again. Cloud 9 right now, guys. This concludes the AMA for me as of now. I'm sure this thread can stay open for however long until it eventually gets buried or 404'd. Thank you so much for all the questions. I had no idea that I would have gotten quite so much out of this thread. Cloud 9.